Good morning, and welcome to the Nostrocker Morning Review. As usual, I am Nostrocker. As usual, it is the morning. And as usual, we are going to review. Today was a challenging day. It was a difficult morning for the Nostrocker upon the ladder. I played 5 games, lost 4 of them, and they were not close. Where to begin? Okay. Well, let's go over the games real quick. It was 5 games, 2 Zergs, and 3 Protoss. I won 1 game against the Zerg and lost all of the other ones. The first game, Zerg game, was just a Roach Flood, which I think is pretty manageable. I hadn't seen it before, but looking at what information I had at the beginning, I think it was definitely doable if I had responded a little bit quicker. I made a major mistake in that I didn't start saturating my gas. So when I was trying to make some roaches to counter his roaches, I didn't have any gas. And then I wasn't ready for, I don't know, what did I do? I made a couple queens, which just got surrounded. I tried to make some lings, but they were just coming out 2 at a time, and it all kind of fell apart. But what should have happened is I should have noticed that there were some roaches coming curiously early, which would have indicated to me that he is going for a very early all-in. And then I could have just made some backup roaches. It would be fine. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. I died. Whatever. Then I had a game where everything just fucking sucked. There was this probe shows up, and he made a cannon. He made a pylon, and then he made a cannon. And I was thinking, I've seen this before. I don't want to play this. I'm a smart guy. So I'm going to wait for a minute. I'm going to see if he puts down the cannon after the pylon. And if he does, this is the plan. I'm going to cancel the hatchery, move it to the 3rd, make a roach warren, get second gas in my base, make some ravagers, deal with his cannons. Fucking GG. So I cancel the hatchery. I go to move it. He cancels the cannon. So now I have a pylon in my base. I had an almost completed hatchery that was cancelled, which means I lost all of that build time of production. And my plan is no longer valid, and I did not pivot quickly to a new plan. In fact, I screwed up every possible plan. I then forgot to make a queen, which happened yesterday as well, when the spawning pool was done. So I was on one base. I didn't fix the saturation. For some reason, I had like long distance mining. I think maybe I threw some, I don't know. Oh, you know what? It was because I rallied to the next base because I thought I was going to go there. And then I forgot to unrally. And I don't know where these two, I guess the Roach Warren and the hatchery drones didn't get replaced. So I was long distance mining, even though I had space on the main. Forgot to make the queen. Had a Roach Warren, but never made any roaches. Everything just fell apart. And eventually the game ended. I mean, there was more stuff to it, but that's sort of the point that it ended. Then I played a game where some adepts came in. It's just some adepts. I've never really dealt with adepts. This is actually totally new in plat. No one sends early adepts in gold. Adepts came in. It was fine. But then I got scared and I was like, what does this mean? And when I looked at the replay, it meant nothing. Nothing weird happened at all. But I started thinking and I started panicking and I started like calculating and thinking like, okay, what's the right thing? What's the right thing? And so I went to see like why his attack was so strong, because I'm thinking like, oh, what is this? What is this timing? What is this aggressive, incredible play? It was fucking nothing. What it was is that I had a bunch of queens with a lot of energy. One queen wasn't even at a base, and I had a shitload of money and a shitload of gas. In all of my thinking of what the next move was, I failed to keep my bases properly saturated. I failed to inject my bases, and I failed to spend my money. So I actually did a little bit of math. I'm pretty sure that from the point, like at the point where I was attacked with his army of like 130 supply, I could have had max supply. It was like 9.5 minutes. It would have been easy. He honestly accomplished nothing with his adepts, but it just made me not play the game. Then I played against a Zerg, and it was okay. Everything was fine. Probably largely because I've been playing against him and I play them, so I know sort of what to look for. So I saw what he was doing and it was fine, and then I just hit him early and just kept on hitting his expansions. It was very standard. It was totally alright. And then I played another Protoss, and this one, I think this one I actually feel the least bad about, because he did this like mass adept drop, and I've never seen that before, so I didn't really know what to look for. Yeah, so that one's fine. The big question on my mind lately is like what it is to be good at StarCraft, and I think I might explore this a little bit more, make another video, and like really just think about this one thing. Because I was doing these like quick aggressive things, right? And the thinking is I get killed by quick aggressive stuff, so I'll just learn some quick aggressive stuff and then I'll win. And honestly, it worked. But it's a very focused, specific way of playing. And if your game goes outside of certain parameters, it just doesn't work. And that can be just like an automatic counter that they just chose a build that counters you. And that could also be some little detail goes differently than you were expecting. I guess basically, if anything goes outside of the plan, you don't have the knowledge and the ability to react. But at the same time, you don't really need it necessarily. If you just learn all of the permutations, say you have a thing that hits like 7 minutes or something, if you learn the vast majority of what happens in those 7 minutes, you could probably get very good. I think I've maybe talked about Ryan, SC2 Ryan. I think he's one on Twitter and one on Twitch. Either way. So his whole thing, he got Grandmaster in less than a year, and his whole idea was like you pick one build, like a quick one, 5, 6, 7 minute attack, and you do that, and you won per race, and you just perfect it, and then you get to Grandmaster, and he's like beating pro players and stuff. But that's it. Like that's the build, right? And so when things go wrong, you just don't win. But theoretically, if you have one really good build, like you can get pretty high with that, right? But like, is that learning the game? I guess, okay, I'm not going to try and debate what is and isn't playing the game, because you can do it anyway. What I'm thinking is like, do I want to learn a build and use that to like skyrocket myself through this little like crack in people's skills? Or do I want to learn a more like study all the builds and figure out what to do? And today I was trying that. I was sort of thinking, okay, I'm not going to try and just like hit them. I'm going to try and see what's going on and like react properly. And I think the lesson was that that's really fucking hard because there's so many situations. I was sort of imagining, you know, like, okay, so 1 minute this happens or this happens, and then this happens or this happens. But it's kind of more like every fraction of a second there's like 10 new stems and then 10 more, and or you know, 10 and then 100 and then 1,000 and so on. So it's really fucking hard. And this also, I get a little bit frustrated with like the Vibe guide, because that's I think how Vibe is trying to teach people with his Bronze to GM is like, you're not going to learn a build because that's not learning the game, right? You're going to learn to read people, you're going to learn to respond, you're going to learn to like build your base and everything. And I am super on board with that. I enjoy that playstyle a lot. I think that's what I would like to do, but it hinges on an incredible amount of knowledge, right? Like you've got to be able to, you got to be scouting regularly, and you've got to be reading it so well, and it's really hard. But I think I do want to sort of steer towards that. I won't stop making these builds, but sort of steering towards not just using it, like not just Baneling busting Terran every time. Maybe sometimes I just want to play the macro game. Or I watched a sort of video, sort of as a pro Zerg guy from somewhere. He's really good. He had a video of like his opening against Terran. It's like the first 6 minutes, and this is probably the type of build order that I would want to do, which is it takes advantage of what they can and can't do. So he expands really fucking early because he knows they're not going to come right away. I think that's why. There's a lot of things I'm not going to understand about this, but the whole point is that he has like 6 minutes, and it's like, just do all of this, and when you get a little piece of information, maybe you shift it a little bit, right? And there's a point in it where he gets to like army and he's like, okay, and now at this point you just build whatever you want. And if you want to build this, you know, maybe change this part of the build. And if you want to build this, and that I think is an interesting sort of separation of phases of the game that I hadn't really thought about. There's like your build, but your build is just like your opener, right? It's just how you get set up. And then it's like you choose what you want to do afterwards. So you can choose what kind of army you like or what kind of army you think counters. And actually noticing that, I think, reveals a big hole in my thought of the game, is that like I don't really have a picture of like timeline. What happens when do I shifting from doing my pre-made plan to reacting to them, or doing like when is it fight time, when is it build time? There's a lot, man. There's just so much to figure out. But this is what I mean, is like that's what I want to do. I want to get some builds where I'm building what I know is going to work until I know it's not going to work. And that means knowing what to start with and what to read. Okay, so that would be cool. I think this will probably significantly affect the MMR gains for a little while. Like, this might be a stay in Plat 3 for the next month sort of thing. Because there's just a large volume of information that needs to be internalized, and then the experience of like playing it, seeing it, identifying it, responding properly. And there might be a lot of games like today where it's just lost in the first like 2 minutes, you know? But if I think about it as like there's all these sort of pillars, and I just try and fix like the lowest one, like the earliest time that I die, the earliest tell that I miss, like the earliest build that fucks me, just like finding the first thing that's a problem. And that could even be in my own play. Like, when do I get supply blocked? When do I forget to put down creep tumors? Or like, which matchup do I not have a specific plan in? Just finding like the very, 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 very bottom rung. Just fixing that. And like, sure, maybe it'll take forever because there's going to be a lot of these things, right? A ton of them. But theoretically, once the lowest one goes up, then everything is up. And then the next to lowest goes up, and everything is a little bit higher. So instead of doing like the build where you just perfect this one pillar and you're like, this is fucking awesome, everything else destroys it. Maybe you lose more games overall. Maybe you're a lower rank, but you are at that fucking rank, right? No one is going to break you. And then you push up a little higher and a little higher. So this requires a lot more study, a lot more reading. Probably I'm just start looking, and maybe even like playing other races, just getting a solid feel for what is possible, watching more replays, looking up tells, learning how to read stuff. Oh man, it's a lot. Actually, as I say this is a lot less clear on how to practice it. Probably playing a lot of games, checking replays, taking notes of builds and finding out what they are. That's actually probably really big. Like this adept drop thing, look up this build. It's got to be out there somewhere. If the person is perfectly going to drop a bunch of fucking adepts, how am I going to read that? He was on 2 bases. I knew that. Okay. Could have scouted a little bit more for tech and stuff. But there's going to be a tell, right? It's going to be a tell. Okay. I think that's enough for now. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for stopping in. This is one of those days, man. Like, this is a very determined day. I really feel like I lost, you know, like I was up against people that I was not ready for. I am very energized, encouraged, determined. We're going to fix this. We're going to fix this whole StarCraft problem, all right? We're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to figure out what's going on. We're going to win some goddamn games. All right. Thank you very much for stopping by. Have a fucking wonderful day. Peace.